Hey guys. So today we are going to do the whole quadratic formula. So sorry. There we go. Just as a review from what we did the first half of the week and how we're basically going to start all of our problems is finding the discriminant. So if you remember, the discriminant is b squared minus 4ac. So in this case, we've got a, b, and c. Remember that a, b, and c are just numbers. Don't use x's in those at all. So b squared is that. And then minus 4 times 1 times c. So that means that I'm going to have 100 minus 8, which is 92. So since I have a positive number for my discriminant, it means that I'm going to have 2 real solutions and 2 x-intercepts. So if you did not write down the table that I did for the other video, I suggest you go watch that video and write down the table so that you have it as a reference so that you can always, look at that so you don't have to keep looking it up every time. Right. Anyway, using the quadratic formula, I suggest you write this down. Pause the video or whatevs, take a picture of your phone, something, so that you have this. Basically, we're going to put it in standard form. The ones today will already be in standard form, but normally you do that first. Then you calculate the discriminant, and then you put the discriminant under the radical and plug in the other values, and boom, there you go. Technically, this should be x. But anyway, ta-da, the quadratic formula. So, once again, first step, do the discriminant. Second step, plug it in. So here we go. This is already in standard form, so we already did that. I've got A, B, and C. So first I'm going to do is find the discriminant. The reason I like to break it up into 2 steps is you're less likely to make a mistake, and it just makes it simpler. So negative 5 squared minus 4 times 3 times negative 2. So that becomes 25 plus 24, which is 49. Okay. So now I'm going to do the rest of the quadratic formula. Okay. So I'll have x equals, start with negative b. So in this case, that's negative 5. Most of you might already know that that just turns into a positive 5. If you want to just write it as a positive 5, you can. But if you feel more comfortable doing that, yeah, however you want to do it. And then plus or minus the square root of 49 over 2 times a, which is 3. Remember that 2 just comes from the formula. So if you are going to do this in a calculator, you need to make sure that you do something like that, or that you have a calculator that will let you make one of those big fractions, because the whole top and the whole bottom need to be done before you divide. So just something to think about. If you would like, you could put it in something like GeoGebra. Just get rid of all this other stuff. Okay. So I could type in, no, I forgot what it was. Negative 5. So negative 5 plus, because remember, I talked about this last week, but that plus or minus, it means you get your 2 answers, by doing one time with plus and one time with minus. Plus the square root of 49. Okay, hold on. I guess this thing, let's just go ahead and do the divided by first. So let's do, there we go. Now I've got the whole top. So on the top, I'm going to do negative 5 plus the square root of 49 over 2 times 3. So if yours is in like a bit, it won't let me zoom in, but like a big fraction like that, then you're fine. If not, like the way it was doing it before, the calculator was about to do it all out of order of operations. So you need to make sure it looks like that. And I can click enter. My first answer is 2. Then I can just come up here and change that to a minus. And I get negative 0.333, which is just negative 1/3. Kind of lets me, go back and forth on GeoGebra, which is pretty cool. So my 2 answers, dynamic notability. Oh, this is gonna be annoying. Okay, I'm gonna have to do the calculator elsewhere because it is like reloading every time I do that. There we go. Nope, that's last week's video. There we go. So my 2 answers are x equals x equals 1/3. Oh, I hope it doesn't mess up. And then with a plus, it was x equals 2. Yes. Okay. So 2 answers. Dun, 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 dun. Sorry, that was more complicated than it should have been. So remember that the discriminant tells us how many solutions there are and if they're real or imaginary. So it gives us some information, but it just tells us how many there are. That's all we get from it. The quadratic formula tells us what those solutions actually are. Okay. All right, so let's do this one and hope that my computer thingy doesn't freak out. So once again, I'm going to start with the discriminant. So I've got A, B, and C. So I'm going to do B squared minus 4 times A times C. So if you want, you can go ahead and type that in here. 4 squared, 16. Okay. Parentheses, 4 squared minus 4 times 6 times -9. Enter. Right. So negative, positive. The discriminant was 232. That's my discriminant. So now I'm going to take that and plug that into the quadratic formula. So x equals the opposite of b, so negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 232. We already did that part, so I already know that part equals 232. This way you're not having to type so much in all at once. And then over 2 times 6. So if you remember, I'm going to go ahead and put the divided by so that I have the big fraction. And on top, I have negative 4. First time we'll do plus the square root of 232 over 2 times 6. Enter. Now, I get this long decimal answer. So I didn't even look at what it was. 0.935. Now, as of right now, we're just going to be writing these decimal answers. Eventually, we'll move on to radicals, where you can learn how to break down the radicals. But seeing as how we only have 2 weeks, we don't really have the time to get into that now. So if you were ever on a multiple choice and you had an answer that's looked different than yours, you can type the answer choices into the calculator and just see which matches. I rounded. You do not have to round. You can do something called truncate, where you just cut off if you're not good at rounding, like just write 3 decimals and you're good. But anyway, now I just have to figure out what the minus one is. So that was plus. Minus is negative 1.602, which would round up to a 3 because it's a flip 6. And this, in the future, I might just truncate so I don't confuse people. But anyway, there's my 2 answers. So my x-intercepts are going to be a little bit less than 1, and then a little bit more, less than negative 1.5. Okay. So there you go. That's it. All right. That's quadratic formula. We will do more examples in the live meet. Sorry, that first example was kind of weird. Hope you guys have a good whatever day it is you're watching this.